If your first thought when you saw this video pop up in your feed was what in the heck is a Gran Turismo 6 video doing out when Gran Turismo 7 has an update that still needs to be talked about on the channel, well fear not, it's because I recorded this video well in advance. In fact, technically, I've recorded this video before we even saw the silhouettes for Gran Turismo 7's latest update, so I'm assuming that there has been one, in which case, look back a couple of days and see if the trailer was featured on the channel, and if it was, then I'm guessing that we've got the Bulgari Vision GT, and we're going to have Silverstone, and we're going to have 10 cars, and there's going to be all new online career modes with voice chat added, but in reality there's probably just a couple of cars that nobody was really asking for. So, jumping back into Gran Turismo 6 so that there's at least something to watch on the channel, this is a series where I revisit certain reviews that I did way back, literally years ago on the channel, for vehicles which I think have the best chance of coming back in Gran Turismo's future, and some of these have actually happened. Of course, I re-reviewed the Lexus LFA, for example, which has returned. I've reviewed a bunch of other ones like the Chizeta, the Lexus ISF as well, and now this one. This is a car which was massively popular in Gran Turismo 6. Not difficult to understand why, and I feel like for many players, their love for this one has probably, and especially for the younger players, been superseded by the Aventador, with stuff like the SV, the SVJ, even the standard one, and of course we had the standard Aventador back in GT6 as well, but this one was such a popular car, and I must admit, not really for me. I found that this one fell into the exact same camp as the Lexus LFA Nürburgring edition, which is, I get why people like it, it does look pretty cool, but I'm more of a purist when it comes to the design and when it comes to the performance, so I kind of just like the normal one more. I like the LP640 more than the LP670, and crucially when it comes to Gran Turismo tuning, when you fully upgrade both cars, just like the Lexus, there's not really a huge amount of difference between the two of them. Interestingly though, when you do compare this to something like the Reventon, which I also need to re-review because I think that car has a decent chance of coming back as well, it is interesting to see just how different it is in certain ways. Now that one of course is a limited run vehicle, but it's based on the same kind of LP640 platform. This one also has the 6.5 litre V12 naturally aspirated engine, 660 horsepower of course, so slightly more than the LP640 or the Reventon. The torque is interestingly about the same in the game at 487 foot-pounds. The weight though is a big difference. Of course that's the name of the game on stuff like the Super Veloce or SV, and of course the Superleggera or Super Light, it's literally in the name. This is 100 kilos lighter stock even than the Reventon, which is 1665, this is 1565. And of course by far the biggest difference between the two is price. The Reventon is 1.2 million credits, this is less than 400,000, 394,000 and change, technically a hair under 395, so that's a pretty damn good price. 395 grand is not much at all, and these days in Gran Turismo I would be interested to see how that pricing would compare. Now I do think this one has a pretty good chance of coming back in Gran Turismo's future because for one thing, we do of course now have the LP640 back in GT7. It's not too much of a stretch to imagine that this, which was also a premium, could get that treatment as well. And the thing which really surprises me the most is I don't see people asking for this. Now I'm sure as with most vehicles there are at least some people who do really want it, but I definitely don't see anywhere near the kind of clamour that vehicles like the C8 Corvette or the Lexus LFA had, not even close. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw more people asking for stuff like a Jaguar XJ220 than they did for this one. And of course part of that does make sense, because like I said earlier on, if you've already got the LP640, you're 9/10 of the way there, especially when it comes to upgrading it. So for me, I don't actually particularly care if the LP670 comes back, but a lot of people do like it, or at least a lot of people used to. Maybe it has cooled off for some people in the community, maybe as I referenced earlier on, it's possible that the Aventador SV might have kind of distracted people from wanting this one. That's entirely possible, and I do also feel like for many players, if you were to offer them, for example, a choice between bringing back the SV or perhaps including something like a Huracan STO instead, I feel like a lot of people might go that route over this. Some people, myself included, would probably choose this one, because personally I'm more of a fan of this era of Lamborghini rather than their newer stuff, but I could easily see it swinging the other way. Overall, there's not a huge amount to say about this car that you don't already expect or already know. Even in terms of performance, Stock, of course, there is a difference, mostly around tighter circuits where the cornering makes a difference over the LP640, but this and the LP640 were always kind of weird cars. The Reventon as well, especially at high speeds, they were a real pain in the ass to tune correctly, to get them to not be super twitchy or just completely uncontrollable at the kind of ridiculous speeds that we could do back in Gran Turismo 6. Which is one of the reasons why I was so happy when the LP640 came back in GT7. It was such a vast improvement, even straight out of the box, compared to what it used to be. For me, I would actually rather have something like Sierra, the circuit that you can see me driving on here, which I know many of you miss as well as I do. I would choose that over an SV, to be honest, but I could definitely see this coming back in future. If I had to bet on it though, I think I might actually put my chips on this arriving as a day one vehicle in a future Gran Turismo game rather than maybe an update vehicle. It is entirely possible that it could be an update vehicle, and it may be on some kind of leaked list that I don't even remember talking about because there were so many that I did talk about, but I would see it more so as perhaps a vehicle that's kind of slipped in there on day one, that's just quietly added to the dealership. Maybe you see it for like a split second in the trailer for Gran Turismo 8 or whatever the case may be, maybe driving around like a Scari or something, some returning or new track. So yeah, as I alluded to, hugely popular back in Gran Turismo 6. I don't see quite as much love these days though for this machine, which does surprise me, to be honest. That's it for my thoughts though, and I would be very curious to know which side do you fall on. Are you more on my side, who prefers the LP640 and doesn't really care if this one comes back, or of course are you on the other side where you absolutely love this thing and would love to see it come back? Ultimately, that's it for this re-review of Gran Turismo 6. We will be featuring, of course, more of these in future as well. There are still plenty of vehicles which I do think have a very good chance of coming back from the Gran Turismo 6 days, and this is definitely one of them. But I'll see you next time with more, and for now, thanks for watching.